Hey, what's up, guys? Alright, so I'm actually really hyped to talk about this Monster Attack on Titan chapter because in this chapter, chapter 118, Armin basically confirms what I've been saying about Eren for the past few chapters. That Eren is not actually the bad guy, that he is not actually planning on using the euthanization plan. He basically just outright says it doesn't make any sense. And that's what I love about Armin. He, in this chapter, basically says what everyone, I'm assuming everyone at this point has been, kind of theorizing on that as well. He basically says what we all been thinking this entire time. This doesn't make any goddamn sense. Okay, so really in this chapter, Armin doesn't actually confirm that Eren's actually going forward with the euthanization plan, or that he actually is planning on betraying Zeke and going forward with his own plan that he has kind of like been thinking of this entire time. But he puts out the evidence to Connie, Mikasa, and Jean, and basically everything he says kind of makes a lot of sense, and they actually all start to agree with him. Even Connie, who up until this point has been full on, I hate Eren, I want to kill Eren. Even he kind of mellows out of down until basically saying, you know what, I'm still pissed at him. I want to punch him in the face, but I can see what you're talking about. I can see that, the Eren that we knew before all this happened, there's no way he could have he could have changed this drastically overnight like that. So it makes a lot of sense. And you know what? It's actually kind of funny. So I've been planning. I had thought that Attack on Titan chapter 118 would be coming out Saturday. So I uploaded a video. I was like, all right, let me get. I uploaded a video that I've been working on for the past few days now. Last night, started the upload, and I was like, all right, let me get it out a day early. Put Attack on Titan chapter 118 in the title so people can click on it. Basically get that clickbait going. And I was like, all right, let's just let it upload overnight. And after it uploaded, I saw, because I just did a quick Google search to reconfirm that Attack on Titan chapter 118 was coming out Saturday. Did a quick Google search, and the first thing that came up was the actual chapter 118 released already. Like the chapter was already out. I don't think it's an actual confirmation. Like I don't think it's an actual like official translation of the chapter. But it was just kind of funny. It's like, all right, this video I've been trying to get out before the chapter comes out actually ended up technically being uploaded after the chapter was released, like maybe like an hour or two beforehand. And it's just like, wow, what's the fucking luck? And on top of that, the topic of the video was basically the same thing that Armin goes over in the chapter. That basically all my theories on why Eren actually isn't really going forward with the euthanization plan, is actually planning on betraying Zeke, is basically going over by Armin in this chapter, with a few extra things added on that I didn't really think of. But still, it's a huge coincidence that happened. It's just funny. It's just extremely funny that something like this happened. Okay, so enough of my rambling. Let's actually get on to what happened in the actual chapter. And it's actually I'm going to talk about the action that happened in the chapter first, because the action actually was really intense and actually kind of lived up to the hype that I was looking forward to when we get to see the two Jaeger brothers actually work together. Now, Eren didn't really do much in this chapter. In fact, I don't actually think Eren even threw a single punch in this entire chapter. Basically, the entire time, it's just him without saying a word. I don't even think we actually even get even a sentence of inner monologue from him. It's basically him looking up at Zeke and walking towards him so he can actually. It seems like he's, as far as everyone else is concerned, Eren is going to Zeke so they can use the Fighting Titan ability to basically euthanize all Eladians. And what we see throughout the entire fight is basically each time the Jaw Titan or the Armor Titan try to attack Eren and stop him from going there, Zeke basically just throws rocks or whatever he has on him at them, kind of obliterating them. It gets to a point where I think the Jaw Titan takes such a heavy blow that he's out of the fight for the rest of the chapter. Like it goes to attack Eren, Zeke throws a rock through his head, and it's just him out of commission for pretty much the rest of the chapter. Reiner keeps getting up and going back down every time Zeke basically attacks him, but still he puts up a good fight. But even he ends up at one point in the chapter gets taken out, and he's pretty much done for the rest of the chapter. And we actually see some of the Jaegerists basically go to attack Pieck because she has a weapon that actually could hurt Zeke. In fact, she actually does aim the weapon at him for a little bit, and that's when they actually go under attack. And there's actually a point in the chapter where they think that basically they actually had killed her, which doesn't make any sense because if you read this dialogue in the chapter, and again, I don't think this is the official translation, but if you read the dialogue that's going on in this part of the chapter, it's basically them saying, hey, who actually killed her? Like, they're literally celebrating the fact that they killed the Cart Titan when none of them know or even saw her body be destroyed. Like, none of them saw the actual person attack the Cart Titan. So they all just kind of, just because of the fact that they heard the Kane, like, Cartine corpses just sitting there, they all think that they got her, which doesn't make a lot of sense. You would think there's only 5 of them. You would think one of them will, like, as soon as her body started decaying and the fact that she started dying, you would think one of them would be like, hey, who got the kill? Who got the kill? Did you get the kill? No? Did you? No? Okay, we didn't actually kill her. Then find her fucking body. And and this part of the chapter actually kind of gives us a little bit more insight to Zeke, because we see that when he actually looks over and sees, or at least assumes that the Cartine has been killed, that Peak has actually died, he does actually feel sad about it. He actually does feel remorseful about the fact that someone he actually saw as like a comrade and a friend and, basically a subordinate, someone that he's been around for years now, actually died in such a horrible way. So he actually is sad about it for all about 5 seconds before Peak and the general that was on her back man and gun shoot him through the neck and basically take him out of commission for the rest of the fight. Okay, so outside the fights, we actually get to focus on 2 major storylines going on in the chapter. Basically, we get to see like what's going on, kind of get like not a conclusion, but see the next part of the storyline that's been building up between Eren and Armin and Mikasa when it comes to like their feelings and their connection to Eren, and also what's going on with Gabby and Falco, kind of like the 2 of them reconnecting and basically finally understanding each other and what each other were talking about throughout the entire series or throughout this entire arc. And I want to kind of quickly talk about Gabby because so Gabby is she's with Colt. She's with Falco's older brother. The 2 of them are looking for him. And basically, when they end up running into Falco, who actually gets led there to them by Mr. Niles, who actually was kind of looking out for Falco the entire time when they were in jail. When they escaped, he was trying to find a way to basically help Falco get to the airship without dying so that he can get away. Because he ultimately thinks that the war zone is not a place for children. And since he kind of grew to kind of like Falco and kind of understand him more, and the fact that he actually wasn't really that bad of a guy, or that he actually isn't a bad guy at all, actually, he basically tries while all the other soldiers who were locked up with him go to fight. He just grabs a rifle and just kind of leads Falco away. And then when they end up running into Colt and Gabby, he leaves Falco with the 2 of them. And it's like he basically says the battlefield is not a place for children, and then goes out to fight. And it's actually kind of touching because Falco actually goes and basically, all right, it's kind of touching for 2 reasons. One, Falco thanks him. Falco actually calls him Mr. Niles and says thank you for leading me to my brother and Gabby and everything. And it's also touching because we actually get to see a big change in Gabby's character, because in this moment we actually see Gabby basically go to Colt, who actually was willing to kill Nile when he was coming towards him with Falco, and she's like, no, stop, he's a good guy. Like, she literally stops him from doing this. And when Colt goes and basically confronts her, it's like, hey, why did you trust the enemy like that? Like, for all you know, he could have killed all 3 of us. And this is where we basically get to see Gabby's character do a complete 180, because after everything she's experienced from her time here, she's finally realized what Falco's basically been saying this entire time that they've been on the island, that the people here aren't actually the devils. It actually just comes from when we see I want to say Nicholas, something like that, the guy who actually was kind of like in a relationship with Sasha. He's leading her family and their adoptive kids away from the battlefield back to their house so they can be safe. And basically, while they're passing by a place where Falco, Colt, and Gabby are kind of hiding out, we hear them talking about them, and basically they're still using the assumed names that Falco and Gabby gave them. But they're like, oh man, I hope they're okay. Well, at least the parents are saying, I hope they're okay. I hope they're fine. I hope they actually managed to find a way out of this chaos. While the little girl, who actually was her friend at first, who was actually the girl that Sasha saved like way early on in the series, and actually now hates the 2 of them because she found out the fact that Gabby was the one who killed Sasha, basically comes out and says, I hope they're dead. They killed my sister, so I hope they all died. And this is actually kind of interesting, because while we see the 2 of them after the family walks away, we see Colt and Gabby basically spill their guts to each other. Gabby tells Falco that basically, you were right. I came to this island expecting to find devils, when all I found were people. They're not all evil like we've all been built up to believe. And maybe what we're doing right now isn't right. And this is actually kind of the turning point for Falco, because basically Falco comes out and says, hey, I have been in love with you this entire time. Like, he literally just comes out and spills his entire guts. Like, he tells her the fact that he was in love with her the entire time, and then that's the reason why he ended up joining the recruits, in order to basically go and stop her from becoming the armor titan, inherent titan ability, and basically so that the 2 of them could get married one day in the future, have kids, and live a long, happy life, even if it is under the thumb of the Marleyan military and the Marleyan government. He wants to basically build a family with her, even in like their unhospitable, unfamily oriented kind of lifestyle. And he also mentions the fact that basically, or he actually kind of confesses the fact that he kind of helped Eren in facilitating the invasion of Marley, where two of their friends or no, three of their friends actually ended up dying. So he kind of comes clean about that. The two of them kind of like hug it out. They like basically just forgive each other for everything that's happened. And we see Gabby blush. We don't really, it's not really important. It's Attack on Titan. Romance isn't really a big deal when it comes to the series. But we do see Gabby blush when Falco kind of confesses that he's been in love with her. So I guess it's kind of confirming that she has feelings for him too. It doesn't really matter. They actually do have a kind of big thing looming over us right now when it comes to their story. And it's that basically now that Zeke has been hurt, everyone basically thinks that he's actually going to use his scream as soon as he becomes conscious again. So there's, kind of trying to make a mad dash to him, basically kill him off before that can happen. And what we end up hearing from Colt earlier on in the chapter, once he ends up finding out that basically Falco and drank the spinal fluid and actually would end up turning into a Titan if Zeke uses that ability, he concludes that basically Zeke would never do that. If he knows that Falco actually has drank the spinal fluid, then he won't activate the ability just because he wants to save Falco's life. But at this point, Zeke has no idea that Falco is even involved. He has no idea. Well, he knows that Falco is on the island, but he doesn't know that Falco drank the spinal fluid. So he will end up activating that ability and causing Falco to turn into a Titan. And this actually leads into a really interesting development, because I'm thinking, all right, if they can find a way to get to Zeke and let him know about the fact that Falco drank the spinal fluid, would that stop Zeke from actually using the yell just because, like Colt said, he wants to save Falco from that fate? Or would Zeke activate it anyway, despite the fact that he knows that Falco is possibly going to be turned into a Titan when he activates the yell, because of the fact that he wants to save his own life? Because while we know that Zeke is willing to die after the plan's activated, we do know that he also is kind of afraid of death at the same time, because we actually seen in his interactions with Levi, however you want to pronounce it, whenever Levi was about to kill him, Zeke was always shown to be very afraid to die. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see exactly what beats out for Zeke. Would it be his caring and love for Falco, one of his subordinates, or would it be his fear of death? The other storylines basically focusing on Armin, Mikasa, Jean, Connie, and basically when they actually kind of decide to go out there and help Eren on the battlefield. Because all right, that I can never pronounce his name. That black guy who was working for Yelena the entire time basically comes to them and lets them out of their jail cell and tells them, hey, Eren is in trouble and he needs your help. And basically they kind of like, Connie and Jean are kind of like, hey, why should we trust you right now? And it's basically kind of like he spills his guts that yes, he was working for Yelena the entire time. Yes, he did betray them. Even when they thought he was working against Yelena and working with them, he was ultimately still working for her. And basically he ends up kind of saying, I was working with them under false pretenses. I didn't know the euthanization plan was the plan. So I was a good soldier, but I didn't know exactly what they were planning on doing. If I had known that they were going to do this plan, I would not have gone forward with their work. I wouldn't have helped them out at all. And basically, this is enough for Armin to be convinced to helping him because of the conversation that the two of them had earlier on in the series. I'm not actually sure if we actually saw that in a chapter, or this is something that happened during the 4-year time skip that we're not actually privy to. But basically, Armin says, hey, because of that conversation that we had earlier on, I know that you are for a future with as many different cultures as possible. So because of that, there's no way you would want to wipe out one entirely. So there's no way you would be on board with this whole euthanization plan, which would end up in the next 100 years completely wiping out our entire race. And then after Armin says that and basically spills the idea that, hey, Eren actually isn't planning on using the euthanization plan, his theory on why Eren's actually planning on betraying Zeke and Yelena and everyone else up to this point, everyone else kind of jumps on board, but Mikasa is still kind of hesitant. She's still hesitant to whether or not she actually should go out there and help Eren, because she's still hung up on the idea that Eren put in her head, that the reason why she has been so devoted to him, the reason why she has so much affection and love for him, is because of the fact that she, as an Ackerman, is a humanized Titan, and she imprinted basically on Eren as him being kind of like her master. So she is 100% devoted. Because of that, she's 100% devoted to him and will do anything again to help him out. And because of that fact that he had put in her head, she is basically questioning her own morality and her own consciousness, saying, has everything I've done up to this point really been only because of my programming? Is it not because of my own feelings? And because of this conflict she has with her, she doesn't know if she should actually go out and she should go out and help Eren. But Armin completely debunks this theory and says, hey, this was all part of Eren's plan. He wanted you to hate us. He wanted basically us to hate him. So he actually put this idea in his head. Everything that he said to us that day was not really how he feels now. He actually thinks everything was a lie. And when he actually goes to put proof forward when it comes to this, he basically says that her headaches that he actually said, that Eren said were a side effect of the humanization, or actually something that him and Eren have been knowing about for years. And Eren used that fact as leverage to convince her that he was actually telling the truth at that point. So yeah, he ends up actually convincing her that actually Eren was lying the entire time. And actually she kind of gets convinced. She still is hesitant to help him because she doesn't know exactly if she wants to help him at this point. But ultimately she ends up deciding to go on board and fight alongside them. But, and this is actually an important fact, because it actually does show a lot of character development for Mikasa. Even though she decides to ultimately help Eren, she ends up leaving behind a scarf that he gave her that she always wears. She leaves it behind when she actually goes to meet up with that little girl that she saved, or that kind of looked up to her. Then when she had kind of an argument with earlier on when she got locked up. Anyway, the two of them are talking, and when Mikasa puts on her gear and actually leaves out the room, she leaves the scarf behind. And when the girl asks her, "Hey, are you not going to take your scarf?" she says no, and then just walks out the door to go onto the battlefield to fight. So this shows that Mikasa has basically put her feelings to Eren aside. I'm sure she's still in love with him. I'm sure that she still wants to ultimately save him because of that love. But she's basically showing right in this moment that she's not dependent on Eren anymore. That if he were to die here, she could go on living. Whereas prior to that, if Eren were to die in the battlefield, she would most likely have killed herself. But back to Armin's theory with the whole human titanization thing, I kind of thought that was bullshit the moment that Eren brought it up. Because of the fact that, alright, if he's saying that all Ackermans, that the reason why they are so skilled and so strong and so able to fight against Titans is because of the fact that they were humanized Titans. Alright, I can believe that. I can believe that maybe there's some kind of experiment going on with Ackermans in their bloodline that basically makes them into humanized Titans. But when it came to the whole, basically, them imprinting on a person and then basically being 100% devoted to that person and basically doing whatever they can to protect that person and keep them alive, that right there, that line kind of made me instantly think that, alright, Eren is full of bullshit. Because we know that Levi is an Ackerman. And we know that he is actually highly skilled. So that's why I can actually believe the whole humanized Titan thing. But if we were to believe the whole imprinting part of it as well, then it wouldn't make a lot of sense because, alright, if there's only two people that Levi could have possibly been imprinted to. One person he killed with his own fucking hands, Kenny. Kenny found him at an early age and basically taught him how to fight, taught him how to survive. So it would make sense that Levi would have at one point imprinted on Kenny. But then he openly fought against Kenny and ultimately ended up being the one that killed him. So it wouldn't make sense for him to be, imprinted on him if his main goal after being imprinted would be to keep him alive. And basically that kind of goes against him, killing him later on in the series. Then another thing, the other character that he could have been imprinted on was Erwin, which actually makes a lot of sense because we saw that Levi was 110% devoted to Erwin. He basically did whatever Erwin told him. He questioned him here and there, but he ultimately followed Erwin's commands. And when it came down to saving Erwin or Armin, he ultimately did fight tooth and nail with Eren and Mikasa. But again, with the whole his main goal after being imprinted, keeping the person he's imprinted on alive as long as he can, that would not go with the fact that Levi basically let Erwin die in order to let him rest finally. If he actually was imprinted on Erwin, then he would not have let him die. Despite the fact that Erwin would have wanted to rest, the fact that Erwin was ready to die at that point, he would have saved him no matter what because of his imprinting. So the fact that those two characters are the only characters that Levi could have possibly been imprinted on, and the fact that he killed one and actively let one die, I was instantly on board with the idea that Eren was lying, and it's actually what initially started my idea, or my theory, that Eren wasn't actually on board with Zeke's plan. But guys, that's pretty much all that happens in the chapter. Is literally now that Zeke is down, and everyone's kind of making a mad rush to him. You know, the Marlesians are trying to basically get to him so they can kill him off before Eren can actually activate the Titan abilities. And Eren's trying to get to him so he can actually go forward with the plan or whatever his plan is. And there's a possibility that Zeke is actually going to use his yell to activate the Titans around him and basically protect himself from the Marlesians. Like, basically, everything's in chaos right now. I'm actually really excited, even more than I was last chapter, to find out exactly what's going on. I'm not sure. I'm expecting the next chapter we're going to see Armin turn into his Titan form. And I actually want to quickly, before I end the video, throw a theory out there that basically, if Armin's idea of what Eren's plan is actually true, that he's going to use the rumbling to activate the Titans inside the wall, I predict that if in the next 3 chapters we see that happen, we will finally actually see Annie come back. But yeah, if Eren actually ends up activating his ability, then that's what I suspect will happen. That basically he will end up waking up Annie, and she'll be back on the field and possibly end up joining his team. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have as a chapter, guys. That's pretty much all I had to say about the video. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. Comment down below your thoughts and theories, and I will catch you guys later. Oh, I just want to quickly note that this video, when you're watching it, will probably be going up like maybe late the night that actually comes out, or the night the chapter came out, if not early Friday morning. And that's just because I wasn't expecting the chapter to come out, so I actually had to get up early, like really early, to record this video, and have to immediately, as soon as I get done recording and go into work, I don't have time to edit it and all that, so I won't be uploading it till later tonight, possibly early tomorrow morning. So yeah, you're probably gonna be seeing this go out around the same time my Black Clover chapter review goes out. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video, guys. Like I said, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.